On the Wellsaw. At least it'll help you guys understand what this saw is capable of. This is a Wellsaw. This is a model 1316S, which means it's a standard saw, but it has a very large capacity underneath and in the vise. One of the problems we keep having with the saw is nobody quite understands how to work this tool. That's why that's why I'm shooting this little auxiliary video to what you learn in the Ellis videos. So I'd pay attention to this and get some good tips in this video. Okay, let's stop at the vise. The vise seems to be a bone of contention for a lot of people. This is the vise. There's a handle up here that we can grab a hold of to slide the vise back, and then when we run the vise ahead, we can find a spot to stick the vise. Okay, I'm going to show you in a second, hopefully with this camera, what's going on, because right now the vise doesn't want to drop into the holes. There it went. There's a rail inside this vise, inside this assembly, where down in this rail there's a bar with holes in it. That pin on the back of this vise has to drop into those holes. If it doesn't, what happens is everybody cranks on this hand wheel and they blow the vise up. What'll happen is you'll run this block off the end of the shaft and you'll actually damage the vise. So when you're using this saw, you need to pay attention to what the vise is doing. This vise is it's a real accurate tool, but if you're not watching what this vise is doing, you can run into some serious problems. Okay, here's the rack that the vise uses to lock into. It's a series of holes. And when that vise pulls back, it drops into those holes. If it's not dropping into a hole, then there's something wrong with the pin underneath. You're gonna have to look at it and figure out what that is. Or come get somebody and we'll figure out what it is. But if you run this vise all the way out, what's gonna happen is there's a brass nut underneath this cover, underneath the cover here, and you're gonna wind up with blowing the nut right off the thing. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you behave yourself with this. If it's not tightening up, odds are 99% of the time it's because that pin on the back of this vise is not dropping into a hole. So you need to make sure it's doing that. Okay, this is the tensioning device. When you change a blade, here's another little tip for you. You're going to be changing a blade in this saw or the other saw. I don't really care which, but for you cutting guys, that's going to be something you're going to need to know how to do, is change a blade in a bandsaw. That tensioning device in this saw is pretty accurate. You spin it down 6 turns and it takes all the tension off the blade. When you want to retension the blade, you tighten it back up and it runs up against the stop and it stops. It's very accurate. If you fool with it and you get it out of tension, then I got to go in there and fix it again. I spent a month trying to get this saw back together from all the things that people have tinkered with over time, and it wasn't very good. Had to change out blade guides, had to fool with this tensioning device. There's a few other things I've had to work on this saw. This saw is a precision instrument. You guys shouldn't be beating around on it. When you go to use it, I would highly recommend that you ask someone before you get too crazy with it. That block that you're looking at right there is a blade guide. It has bearings and carbide in it. If it wears out, it's going to tear the blades up and we're going to lose blades a lot quicker. If the bearings aren't spinning, you got to come tell me. That means we got to seize bearing. That means we got to look at these blade guides again. When you use this tool, it's got to have coolant. Unlike the Ellis saw, which doesn't use any coolant. This saw is capable of mitering to 60 degrees. It's a miter. You loosen up this handle right here, and you should be able to move the head. Just that easy. If you can't, that means there's something wrong. You need to come find somebody and let them know there's a problem with the tool. Now, this tool is relatively cleaned up. If you choose to use this saw you had best clean it out. I find it all tore up with shavings and chips and little pieces of stuff. I'm gonna lock it out and nobody's gonna get to use it. Okay, here's some more control things on this saw. This one here says cutting pressure. Increase goes this way, decrease goes this way. Okay? Right now it's all the way back. This thing should drop ultra slow. There's also the hydraulic down feed. So when I go to drop this head, and I have it all the way back, and I turn the hydraulics on, I should get a real nice slow speed. If I want to increase my pressure, I can go and turn this handle, and that'll increase my down pressure. It's like a fine adjustment. So you don't want to have a crazy amount of down pressure, but you don't want to have it zeroed out either. A little bit's okay, but you want to make sure you can control it with the hydraulic feed, and make sure you can don't be running it in there at a high rate. All you're going to do is tear up the blades.